appreciate, if anyone's Legends just lock in a Senna lane here or something along those lines, because that would be, something stable. Speaking of stable, okay, we get the 10th play in the LPL summer split of Forge's Swain here.
Okay, I know we'd like to talk about how good Swain is for Forge and how reliant the team were on it for some of their wins, but I didn't think it would come to this, Mazel. Clearly, they feel like whatever AD carry WE pick that is left open, they will be able to counter it. We've seen different strategies attempted to be used to counteract things like the Zeri. So now the question is, will WE opt into it? Will they go into the trade and look to prioritize the Senna, for example?
It puts WE in such a terrible position, it feels like, because you literally, you get to pick Zeri, but then you get a scaling lane on the other side as well, and a lot of sustain and a lot of team fight potential there. They do get the Zeri, but now, anyone's Legend gets a bit of the pick of the litter. Oh, they just go with the Kalista. Okay. Xing piloted it, had a great KDA in game number 1. Betty says, I want it this time. Also, anyone's Legend had banned away the Amumu in game 1. This time left open on the blue side. They pick it up. They love this combo.
So AL are clearly confident they can shut down the Zeri, right? That they can handle it. And they get, I think it goes without saying, they get an insanely strong team fight coming out from AL. The fact that you have the AoE damage from the Amumu, the CC that increases magic damage for the Swain, really fantastic. Now, Taliyah's locked in. I like Taliyah into Kalista. I think it's a really solid pick because obviously you can't really team fight on your Unraveled Earth, and it's so massive now. And now we got the second rotation. WE can start to ban away junglers here and really thin the pool for Xiaohao, whereas AL, I'd be a little bit concerned about some of the top laners. Might be a pain. Gnar definitely stands out as someone who's still left open and available, who was banned last time. I think they'd probably look in that direction. And maybe anyone else they're concerned coming out as a counter pick. Maybe the Gwen is something that you wouldn't want BiuBiu to take on 5th pick when you can't answer it.
I do like that WE are going for a little bit more, I guess a little bit less of that single skirmishing kind of style, and seeing more if they can opt into this team fight potential. But again, anyone's Legend in the second phase, they're just going to start focusing down Kadaya's pool here. We got to see, the Rel last time didn't work out too well, but he was able to find a lot of advances for Team WE. We'll see if he gets his pool whittled down even more. The Camille actually joins the ban table for Team WE.
Do you think it makes sense? Camille very good into Zeri, right? You are a champion who thrives on mobility. If Camille gets on top of you, it's a pain. And also ZDZ, fantastic at Camille, something they relied on heavily in spring. I feel like this has to be Gnar, but actually the Gragas. So, I mean, I think for my money, you could just take support here and be comfortable in that. But I feel like that leaves AL to take Gnar. So I would probably lean towards picking up the Gnar myself at WE. I'm actually really concerned about it being countered, but I think if that was the case, you wouldn't have banned a jungler in the second rotation.
Imagine that team fight setup? Oh my god.
Yeah, it'd be pretty good. And yeah, we see Braum come out, so decent at kind of mitigating that engage from the bot lane. If you queue in on Amumu and get the passive on you, it's going to be a bit of a pain. And we'll see what AL opt to go for. Obviously, they need the jungler for Xiaohao with a pool thinned quite significantly, and the top laner, which I have said I think should be Gnar.
So I'm not saying this makes sense, but in some extent I would love to see it just to get some gameplay of it. I myself haven't gotten to cast it yet in the LPL, but we do get the Jax here for anyone's Legend. It was something we got to see banned away in game number 1. They will bring out the confidence pick here for ZDZ in game 2.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense to sort of pocket pick for him. I'm not sure necessarily how specifically strong up here. I feel like most other teams would have just taken Gnar there, but they opt to go for the Jax. And then Xiaohao going for the Diana. So it does mean it's an AP mid jungle, but another champion that benefits massively from the Amumu passive. Remember, if you ultimate on Amumu, you apply your passive to everyone, 10% extra damage. So if you deal 100 magic damage, you deal an extra 10 true damage. And obviously Diana will deal a ton. And now WE,
they need their own team fight tools.
Yeah, I feel like this is kind of a no-brainer just to lock the Gnar in. So we can kind of take stock. I think ultimately, both mid laners pretty powerful. I think Shanks does a lot of job at mitigating all the dashes available to AL. BiuBiu should be okay in this matchup, although ZDZ is very competent on Jax. And the bot lane. The bot lane is an interesting one because, Xing is going to take cleanse. Kadaya can really stop Amumu from being as annoying. You know, like if he bandage tosses, you apply your passive, you jump away. But I know Betty and Chocho are going to play this bot lane like so aggro, so aggressive. And I'm really interested to see how it ends up going.
Yeah, and I think you can see where Xiaohao is going to put some obvious focus. I think you can leave ZDZ to some extent in that top side matchup and really just hone in on the bottom lane here and see if you can get those combos off. As you were saying, that level 6 mark is going to be a crucial key point to, you know, how they win fights. But it's especially getting a lead. We saw, though, I will say, Team WE get a lead with the Kalista last game and unable to pilot it to a win because of the late game potential that came through from the
Because
Apelios.
they lost one fight, Mazel. They lost one fight.
They did, but it's the base reason, right?
Yeah.
It's the principle. It's the fact that we're seeing the Zeri here, which a lot of the times we don't even get to see in the LPL because it is banned away so heavily. And now, you know, it's so funny to me because at this point it's like AL just kicking the ball over into Team WE's court and saying, "All right, what you got? Are you able to pilot this broken champion? Are you able to put this matchup to the test?"
That's the question. And ultimately, I feel like the way we want to see and pilot this with the Zeri is kite, 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 kite. You know, you're playing against these dive threats, the Jax, the Diana, the Swain, who want to get up in your face, who want to cause issue, and we want to see them creating space for the backline, shutting down these engaged threats when it comes to team fights. But that is a long way away, Mazel. And first and foremost, I want to see how this bot lane pans out.
We will have to see. I just shout out to the
bot lane. Mazel, who cares about bot lane? Look at
Hey,
Chocho.
yeah, he's got to go for the early aggression here, maybe a little bit. He does use the scanner early, but just showing a little bit of love to BiuBiu potentially.
I mean, Amumu has one of the best level 1s in the game because you have
You
your
get
main
two
CC ability
uses.
twice. Yeah, you get the double whammy. We've seen a lot of teams use that to go aggressive, typically with invades. Here, though, instead, they end up looking for a bit of a cheese play top that doesn't find anything, fortunately for BiuBiu. And it looks like we'll just get standard starts coming out.
So do you feel like both teams are going to be able to leave this top lane to kind of its own devices here and see how, you know, the TPs come into effect later, or at least some of the movements away from top lane are going to work out?
I feel like the junglers, if they see an opportunity to make an impact on the top lane, they will look for it. And the thing is, Jax, to do well in this matchup, has to do this. Like, look at him. You can't, like, sit on the minion wave and chill. To apply pressure in the matchup, you have to jump on your opponent. You use the counter-strike. You ramp up the damage, because obviously you're being hit with it. You're getting the autos, make it do more damage. And because you have to play the lane in such an aggressive manner, it does make you vulnerable. So I would not be surprised to see Beishang heading up there. Potentially even Xiaohao coming to give a hand to ZDZ. And you see the importance of the ward and the brush that BiuBiu has. So what we often see is like teams will actually send members up top to put wards down, because the fact that BiuBiu has a ward there does obviously give him an advantage. Whenever ZDZ walks away to drop aggro, he still keeps it. But ultimately, in this situation, him using the ward there means he doesn't have a ward for the river, he doesn't have a ward to defend from ganks, so it does have a bit of a cost.
And I will say both junglers obviously pathing full clear towards the top side of the map at this point. So you can obviously see they're looking to just dip their toes in the top side matchup, see who they can get ahead, and then who can kind of be left to their own devices. Because you can, at least for AL's side, be pretty confident, and we've already seen, you know, Betty and Chocho will be playing aggressive. They'll try to have priority in that lane. As BiuBiu and CDZ, speaking about priority, they're going head to head.
Yeah, and I mean,
actually, Beishang, he's going back bottom lane. Okay.
Yeah, I guess the fact that you see this prio mid and top, he doesn't really want to tango and try and contest the scuttle right now. Obviously, you could try and go for, you know, a gank top, but it's so risky if it backfires. You're just in such a bad position. So instead, play it a bit safe. We'll just head towards that bot side scuttle and ensure you can secure that. You've seen, you know, a bit of aggressive play coming out from AL so far in the bot lane, but haven't really been able to achieve too much other than just having prio.
Yeah, Scuttle Crabs go each way. I'm sure we'll see Xiaohao play up towards that top side of the map. We did see actually Chocho on the Roam, and we've seen a lot of movement around the map so far from Chocho. And I think the Amumu really unlocks his aggression that we've seen this player really be able to pilot for AL and for Betty. We talked a lot at the beginning of the day how crucial this combo has been. We saw it last game, but especially in the laning phase, especially now that he's got this Amumu, it just feels like there's another level potential.
Look how scared the B's bot lane have to play here. Oh, it does connect.
It does, and he can't get the concussive blows on Betty. Shing wasn't able to land the auto attacks there, so just taking a lot of damage.
It's kind of rough because it's like if you take the time.
Oh my god, again? And this is why you don't give over the Amumu. And Betty and Chocho. Oh my god, they're going under tower here. The burn. It's not going to be enough. The spear's in there as well. If one more rend would have been pulled, this is how AL win their games. And it's looking like WE playing off the back foot now.
And it looks like the defensive angle from WE isn't working. The Braum doesn't have time to even auto before he has to jump away because he's so scared of just being bursted out. The power of this Kalista and Amumu. He has to be really careful here. Now, I think Betty is just going to reset. He's low, doesn't know where the enemy jungle is, but still, you can see the pressure being applied in the 2v2. And now, Taliyah with no sums could be a little bit vulnerable.
Yeah, and I love seeing Betty and Jojo use this advantage in bottom lane. But again, you do have to think about, like, it is good that WE get out of that one. It is good that Shing still has his flash, still has plans, right? In mid lane, WE are looking on the roam on Taliyah to get Forge. A couple more auto attacks, but he can't get it because they see Xiaohao coming. But I will not be able to get too much damage there. No setup for Xiaohao and Chocho too early on. But Chocho's still just waiting because he's just wants to be the engager. He wants to be the man that says charge.
I mean, he's just vibing. He'll try and stall his wave out if he can, if they let him. No mana really on Shanks, so he may be able to hold it. Amumu is actually surprisingly one of the best champions at holding waves just because you take reduced damage with the minion autos with your E. And it looks like that's what he's trying to do, is just keep it there until Forge is back. You know, allows him to catch that wave, maybe even freeze it himself, and then Chocho will head down towards bot lane. What I am interested about is, you know, we have the Diana coming in. There's been this new build that I've seen all over solo queue, where as your mythic you go to Sunfire build, and it's really strong. You'll know that the tank mythics were buffed recently. Sunfire like got an extra HP, but basically you're super bulky. You still do like 1,000,000 damage because obviously when you're up close as Diana, you're still burning them, right? And then you often go like Nash's Tooth. Sometimes you get the Nash's first for extra clear speed, and you're just an absolute monster. I think that may well be the build we see come out from Xiaohao. We'll talk about it when we get to it, but it is very hard to deal with, I'll be real, because you can't just burst it that you typically do with like glass cannon Diana builds, but she also does a ridiculous amount of damage, so there's really no winning.
Interesting. The stop off for the blasting one. So see how that works out. The early drag focus apparently here for anyone with Legend, as they had the priority in bottom lane. They got 4 members. They get the first neutral objective of the game.
Yeah, able to secure with that pressure they have from the bot lane. Makes quite a bit of difference in just being able to move towards those neutrals.
Fine, it didn't reset. What are you talking about? It was clean.
It's fine. It's
it was
fine.
clean.
It's fine. It's fine. Calculated.
Always love it. Always love it. But hey, we get to see the reset back into it, and again, we're getting a lot of what we got in game number 1. Right? We were talking about it was like 2 kills at like plus 20 minutes. So we're much more the same in terms of just farming up, waiting for big things to draw the attention. But in those kinds of moments, it's where we need to see AL set the pace, set the advantage. They've done so already with Betty and Chocho bot lane, but we got to see a continuation of that.
Yeah, and I'm really interested to see how the team fights pan out, especially when, you know, Chocho gets his hand on his ultimate. Such a big boost in power. He can even just look to like target and burst like Taliyah if he oversteps. But still, not seeing too much action. I get it though. You have Diana just leaning towards that level 6 point into those bigger fights. And it looks like it is not going to be the Sunfire build coming out from Xiaohao with the alternator picked up. That suggests that it's
they need the wombo combo damage. I agree with that, right? Though, because going back to your point in the draft, right, that extra percentage of damage onto the kit with the Curse of the Sad Mummy, I think that's going to be huge, because we saw last time the damage not exactly there at that like 40-minute mark for the Kalista. You have to really navigate the fights. You have to be very careful in terms of how you deliver your damage. So Xiaohao will be a little bit of that safety net, I guess, in terms of trying to get the kill.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, personally, I would prefer the Sunfire just because, like, in those longer fights, so much value, and these are going to be longer fights. But regardless, he clearly just wants to absolutely pop off and blow people up, and I can never really fault that, Mazel, you know?
True. Hey, crazy is our game. Betty, don't you do it. Betty, just don't do it. Good job. Just do it. Now Beishang is bot lane, just looking for a little bit of a gank, a little bit of fun, as want to get some revenge for that early aggression we got to see on the WE's bottom lane. They'll keep pushing up here in Beishang. Spotted out on the ward, just hovering now, and Shanks on his way as well. Does have the Weaver's wall, so they could go for a dive.
Yeah, it would be a very hard dive. All
It would
sums up,
be.
and it's Kalista and Amumu. The thing that makes it a bit easier is the fact that Amumu doesn't have ultimate. But you can see, as soon like the Taliyah roams down a bit to apply the pressure, AL do back off, and they push up again. They aren't that scared of it. And with QiuQiu hitting 6, they kind of think they can mitigate it. And it may, it may look like, okay, cool, WE denies some minions. That's fine for them. But in the meantime, Xiaohao grabbed Herald. So this is a massive win for AL, and they might be looking for an angle to really capitalize here. You see Shanks roaming up to deny, but ZDZ has been doing work in this matchup, and with Demolished, should just be able to get another plate here.
And hasn't really gotten much help either. Oh, saves the jump, but you got the little skippery that BiuBiu at least was able to have. And I still love that Xiaohao's willingness to move up here towards ZDZ shows that they're completely confident in how this bottom lane is kind of working out right now.
Yeah, and if they manage to slam the Herald in the top lane, give that full tower to ZDZ, all those plates, it would be devastating for WE. They're already down by 1,000 gold, and it's not getting better. Honestly, I feel like Herald might be a waste in top lane. ZDZ is just doing it himself.
He's actually working on another plate here. They still have 3.5 minutes until the plates really fall off. QiuQiu wait till the last second to go in. Try to buy some time for the rest of AL to join, but it's just going to be some supportal combat. And they actually find out the ward plates there as well. So ward gameplay going in favor of AL at this point.
Yeah, I think that's a really big thing, is that sometimes you see supports go on these aggressive warding missions. If you spot them, then it's very easy just to pop the sweeper, and you know pretty much where the walls will be put down, so you can clear that all out. So at this point, Dragon's up in a minute. AL have that first one. I know WE would obviously love to get that, but the fact that AL have Herald, they can use that objective quite effectively to apply pressure. It also feels like they've had the bot pressure, they have top pressure. WE are struggling right now, and sure, they have this Zeri, who's going to scale exceptionally well in the later stages, but that is going to take time to come online. For the time being, it's really AL's game to control.
Hey, Shanks is representing, and Xing as well, rounding it out there with some leads. Not by far, but at least they have a little bit of something to speak of, and that first strike definitely helping Shanks out in that regard. But we got to keep looking at this bottom lane. When does QiuQiu decide to go in? And that's right now with the Curse of the Sad Mummy. Plans immediately used, as well as the lightning crashing. Fate's Call misses, but they still get the kill on Taliyah because that's the early game aggression.
And you can see Xing trying to find the window to turn it around, but just isn't quite able to do enough damage at this early stage. And to add insult to injury, looks like we get the Herald thrown down. You already struggle in this matchup. The Kalista just got a ton of extra gold. It's going from bad to worse.
Yeah, that's so many plates for anyone's legend as they find themselves 2,000 gold in the lead now. Beishang is on his way down bottom. They'll take, at least in the wake of that pressure of anyone's legend, they'll be able to take the dragon.
Yeah, that is the one sort of nice aspect of it, is that AL obviously commit heavily and the counterpoint is there, but I don't think you can be really too positive about WE. They've just lost that top tower.
Don't look at top, but don't stop. Don't worry about it. Okay, things are happening now.
What's not going well either? Where do we look? It's all going bad.
Just keep the camera up, Beishang. There you go. You're fine. You're gonna be looking at the jungle mobs. You can look at some. There's some deer in the jungle. There's ducks. There's a lot of wildlife.
He's losing his Krugs right now, and they're looking to invade on him.
Oh no, Taliyah caught in transition here, and there's the Vision of Empire to set up the slow. The Moonfall as well. There's your damage as well for Xiaohao, and he picks up his own kill.
Nice play coming out as well. This is the fact that you have that CC from the Amumu, the increased magic damage, Forge W's on top, and obviously the Diana loves that amp. They pick off Taliyah, and now don't do it, Xing. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Stay alive. Live another day.
Live another day. They're going to get all 5 plates here for Betty and Co. And that's going to be even more. I was just saying, it's the, 2,000 gold. It's not too shabby, right? Well, hey, now it's almost 5,000 gold.
Yeah, it is snowballed very quickly out of control. You can kind of see why teams are banning Jack specifically against CDZ. The proficiency he has in this champion is something to be feared. And I just feel like the game's in a rough spot. You have a Diana who's farming up, who's already got a kill. The bot lane is going exceptionally well. Top lane is going exceptionally well. And mid lane, Forge has Swain. And if you've watched many of AL's games so far, you know that that is just a win condition in and of itself. So WE are starting to feel the pressure already.
I'm still so impressed with Jojo. I know we're watching him walk around in mid lane, but he just looks like a beast on this Amumu pick. Like, I know you're talking about ZDZ's Jax, but like, you look at this draft, and there's a lot from AL that is just terrifying, that should not be allowed through, that they should not be able to pilot, right? Even Betty on the Kalista, it is terrifying. But Jojo on the Amumu, a different animal. Jax looks insane. Forge consistency in the mid lane and team fight setup. It's just, this is the inner workings of anyone's legend. You're watching it unfold on your screen right now.
And I feel like as much as our laning has been going well, the team fights are where they get really scary. That's where you have to really show some concern now. It does look like WE trying to lean some pressure down towards this side of the map and look for Forge, but Swain, not exactly an easy target to dive. Now, he has gone the mandate build that we've been seeing all the time in the LPL. I know in solo queue, Leandre is a lot more popular, but you get that extra movement speed on the procs, and if your team are there, you know, you get so much extra damage, especially when you have people like Xiaohao, ZDZ diving in. Do you see AL move down towards the boss side of the map just to cover? But nothing too crazy going to come off that for the time being. Herald actually being soloed by Betty, I believe, at the moment. So just leaving that up to him. Why not?
I mean, hey, they literally, they cannot respond to ZDZ in the top. Like, he has been near the tier 2 tower for the last 3 minutes, probably. And nobody is willing to go up there and answer because they realize that things could go bad if they show pressure up there, if they try to answer up there, and they're just leaving BiuBiu to his own devices at this point.
Yeah, they may have watched the series yesterday, Viego V5, where they had to send like 4 members to deal with the Shy, and even then, nearly lost one. So don't want to have to tango with a Jax who is fed as he is now. You see he's going towards the Frozen Heart, often like an early rush. Ability haste, if you can get that early on a Jax, it can really help out. Just getting more rotations of your counter strike, more rotations of your leap strike to stick onto targets when you're getting into those fights. Because you got to remember, Shanks has a decent amount of damage himself, but Beishang, BiuBiu, and Shing, they are all auto attackers. As much as Gnar obviously does like his big combo, if you're able to dodge away that damage, it does make you significantly harder to take down.
And I think WE in this kind of downtime that we've gotten since the AL aggression really took hold of the game, we have seen them recoup in terms of like getting resources around the map, you know, evening up the top lane a little bit more for BiuBiu. But it still feels like when AL decide they want to turn it on, it's on.
Yeah, and it's 40 seconds till our dragon. And if I'm talking about a time to turn things on, that kind of feels like it. Now, WE are looking to contest in the mid lane and try and posture. I am really scared for how they're going to approach this team fight, though, with the deficit they're currently in. That being said, they have managed to close it. Okay, I said that not really at all. But look at the numbers, do the math. No, not
like,
really.
You know, it's
It hasn't. The lead hasn't got any bigger, Mazel.
That's positive.
Yeah, that's something. I don't think they contest this dragon.
There's the Chad Rift gameplay from Betty, who soloed the Rift Herald. I feel like it should look different if it was soloed by an Asian carry. It should look better. But it's going to be more pressure in the mid lane from anyone's legend here. Beaver's wall to try to block them off a little bit. They do separate Chocho, but he has the bandage toss that can come right across. And that's immediately transitioning AL into the dragon. Ambitious
Weaver's wall. I mean, maybe cut them off more. Probably not still. They both have flash, right? And if you dive on the Swain, he's got stopwatch, and that's kind of where Swain thrives, when people are diving into his range. Now, Dragon has gone over to AL, will in a second, and they are looking for ZDZ top.
He's a little bit by himself here. The concussive blows will be there as well after he gets out of Counter-Strike. And that's 4 members strong, 5 after the end of it, and ZDZ still alive for a little bit, but not for long.
At least they brought appropriate numbers. I think that is the message from that one. Have to respect the Jax, and they leave no opportunity for ZDZ to outplay. Perhaps should have just definitely should have just backed off when he saw his team were getting the dragon for free, and he knew WE were backing away. Regardless, AL still happy with that passage of play, but trying to crack this mid lane tier 1. That's the main thing. We've seen them constantly pushing in for it. It is low in HP, but until they do, it does make it harder to push up into the enemy jungle. And we'll get a replay. I don't feel like there's much to comment on here. You can't 1v5 yet, ZDZ.
Not yet. Yeah, I mean, there was really no hope. The fact they brought 5 shows the respect, I feel like, that W were able to show in this moment. But We also saw right after that play a lot gained from Xiaohao in the bottom lane. The jungle of Beishang not going to have as many animals in it this time around, but a lot of pressure towards bottom lane as well.
And now 2 item spikes for Betty, Rage Blade and the Shield Bow. You have Rylai's and the Mandate for Swain. And essentially, because you have a stopwatch, you're kind of cheating the third item. Third item will be Zhonya's for Swain, but you kind of have the effect of it now. So AL are mega strong. I think it goes without saying. Not just the Goldie, they're hitting their big spikes. The thing is that at least we have, a bit of time before Dragon Soul is on the card. But it starts to become difficult. When do you start contesting? When are you comfortable to take a fight? Do you just play for picks? But the problem with picks is it's like, there's that example on the top lane where ZDZ was clearly overextended, but you don't have that snapping gauge, right? It's not like you have an Amumu who can just bandage toss in, or even a Diana who can dive forwards. You're kind of relying on, like, maybe a seismic shove from the Taliyah. It's not the best setup. You can see AL just aren't really afraid and are looking to push in on this mid tower.
Speaking of pushing, they're looking to just take the fight because much like last game, that big combo is there. Everything on top of it. It's a Venn diagram on your screen, but it's live. BiuBiu's got the flank here. He's almost Mega Gnar. Forge is still with the demonic session. It falls. BiuBiu wants to get the Mega Gnar, but he can't get it in time. He's almost just dead. Counter-Strike comes through, and ZDZ refreshes the front line of AAL. Man, what a fight. That just shows a little bit of that terrifying setup.
That's the combo. That's the combo you're looking for. I'm kind of surprised QiuQiu didn't go in again. I feel like a player like him, even though he's 1 HP, I could have seen it. But now they're going on the Baron. This is exceptionally fast. Bear in mind, they just used the smite from Forge. They have Ren. They have Diana. It's just gone.
And Forge is just tanky. He just took an entire combo from Shanks and didn't even feel it afterwards. That's a huge pickup in the Baron play. We'll see that play one more time. And again, just watch your screen. It feels like math class.
Yeah, WB overstay, and then Kadaya jumps to his backline. QiuQiu bandage toss into ult, and obviously the amp on the magic damage when you have the Swain and the Diana there. Just fantastic. And here, I see this moment. I honestly thought QiuQiu might throw himself into BiuBiu just for a second. That is the sort of player he is, but he plays it safe. He backs off. He obviously knows that game 1 was a bit tenuous and doesn't want to risk it. And now AL, they have the Baron, the 6k gold up. It's third dragon in a minute and a half. This is where they can start to push in and take those tier 2 towers and start to pick up more of that standing gold, really elevate the lead and get to like that 10,000 gold advantage mark where it becomes very dire for WE.
It's literally just they choose when things happen. Like there was a huge lull for many minutes. And then they're just like, hey, let's go in. Let's see what happens when we go in. And then they win. And it feels, as I was saying at the beginning of that call, it feels a lot like last game where they're in a position now with the level of team fighting synergy that they have that if WE are forced into a Baron play, into another Dragon, into one of these stacking objectives, they're just going to lose because you can't just let an objective like a Baron go. You can't just let these things fall out. But what do you do against the composition that AL have?
It's so difficult. And, I was talking about the Sunfire Diana, the more sustained damage build. I'm kind of vibing with the Burst build for Xiaohao right now because he has got so much on-demand damage. As you were saying before, that combo with the Amumu, absolutely devastating, has gone for the Anathema's chains. I love this on Amumu. I love this because if you use the Anathemas on, let's say, Xing, for example, it means if you QRQ, it overlaps because there's like a 3-second cooldown between you can use your second Q, and because you reduce their tenacity, you can actually sequence it so they can't do anything in between. They get no space, no time, which puts more emphasis on having that cleanse. So, I don't even know if it's specifically on Xing. It may be on Beishang as well. Obviously has more tenacity. But either way, when you have all those stuns, the Anathema is a really powerful tool for increasing the duration.
Yeah, we've already seen that combo being pulled off. It just must feel good, right? Like pressing the buttons at the right time with this combination of champions just feel like you're unlocking a cheat code to some extent because you come away just feeling good after decimating the health bars, but at the same time having so much sustain that you're not seeing much damage traded back. And we've seen consistent control from anyone's legend. And we were talking at the beginning of the day about where we've been seeing focus for both these junglers, a lot of focus around Betty and QiuQiu. And as I said earlier in this game, it just feels like we're getting the AL that we've seen functioning to such high success rates.
Yeah, I mean, AL, the big change they've had from Spring is that early game has gotten better by a pretty significant margin. that was their weakness. They would fall behind significantly, and they were often able to fight their way back with their strong team fighting with things like Jinx. You know, not as often as they would need to be in the upper echelon of the teams, but coming into summer, their team fighting is still really strong, but their early game has been better. So, you know, games like game 1, yes, they can still fall behind, but they find their way back. And then games like this, when they do get a lead, which is, you know, as I said, happening more and more, it feels very difficult to find your way back in, especially, as you said, a comp like this. It's the fact that, like, if you're already lacking in damage and you're going up against this Jax and this Swain, and even the Kalista with a shield bow, like, you would struggle to kill a squishier target, but you're not going to kill Forge anytime soon. Like, think how long Xing needs to actually auto-attack Forge to take him out. Yeah. And I guarantee you do not have that much time to freely auto in a team fight up against what AL has.
And we were also seeing a much tankier build come out from Xing's Kalista than we are from Betty's as well. And I think that's a big difference we're seeing from AL. They're willing to, you know, ride the knife's edge and go for the damage builds in expecting to be able to outplay and know that they can use it to their advantage.
There's still time for Betty to pick up some tanky items, but yeah, I feel like at this point you can just go for the damage, ride that, and Beishang, oh no.
Yes, the flash. That's a huge cooldown for a Viego, let alone for Beishang on Team WE. We're seeing the pressure continue here. Got a while for objective, right? We have another minute and a half for the Baron, 3 minutes for the Dragon at this point. But you look towards top, and the same thing is happening. We've seen all game long. There's really no response here. They're actually, Team WE, pulling the trigger on bringing BiuBiu towards mid.
Yeah, they're just trying to find an angle, but they don't have any snap engage. That's the problem, you know? When you're behind and you don't have engage, it really feels lame. Because also, when we look at that Dragon in 2 minutes 30, here's what's going to happen, Mazel. AL are going to get there first. They're going to set up vision control, and then WE have to try and push in. And if they push in against AL's composition, they'll just find great angles to flank, to collapse on them, to engage on them. And WE can't, like, they can't see Betty mid like this. Betty walks up mid, no pressure. There is no pressure from WE. There's no one who can just jump on him. There's no Nautilus who can flash R on top, and that's kind of the concern. So they have to start trying to find creative angles here. Maybe a Weaver's Wall, maybe a TP flank from BiuBiu if they want to find their way in, because they lose that fight in 2 minutes, they lose that soul, I think it's just over.
They do, and they're gonna have to get the timings right. BiuBiu getting his Gnar back. We do have the item timings also coming through here. The Banshee's Veil completed for Shanks, at least having a little bit of defensive tool. They want to go in now with that set advantage, but there's the moonfall, and their health bars are just gone. Betty goes forward. The Fates call on the 4 members. I can't watch. Aux, I can't watch. I'm turning away. I'm looking at the beauty in the stars. I'm looking at my ceiling because I don't want to see what anyone's legend just did to Team WE.
They just styled on them, man. They absolutely dumps them. The combo comes in, the initial setup from their Amumu and the Diana, and then QiuQiu with the 4-man knockup to set up ZDZ, to set up Forge. Fantastic play, man. I love this team. And WE, they felt desperate. They felt they had to go for something. They find nothing at all. And AL are going to take this series 2-0.
Team WE fans, come back, check another day. AL fans, ride that train all day long. They are looking good, and they're moving up in the standings. Anyone's legend pulling out big-time combos in perfect legend fashion here, and they find themselves a 2-0 victory to kick off our week number 7.
And you can see QiuQiu and Betty, you know, instantly just like, let's go after that one. What an ending. Just a fantastic way at the end of the game. Hitting everything, every combo you want, and being able to land it, and just exactly showing what the composition can do, showing what AL can do in team fights, why they've been such a threat, and why they are steadily climbing the ladder. And with that one, you know, we showed the standings earlier today. V5 top esports and JDG with 9 wins, and then there's a gap, right? There was 3 wins between them and RNG, 3 wins between them and anyone's legend, but AL still were a game down. They hadn't played as many, and RNG still had 2 more to play. Now with this one, AL pulled back up in a 4th. They have 7 wins. They're back in 4th place once again. And this is a crazy thing. When AL first got to 4th place, everyone was like, what is going on? AL is 4th. They're still in 4th. I mean, they dropped down a bit, but they're still maintaining this position in the standings. People are saying it. I've been kind of memeing, but not really. 4 teams got a Worlds for the LPL, right? You know, we have a clear
buy your
top 3 at
tickets
the
right
moment.
now.
If AL got a Worlds, man, what a journey that would be. But I'm getting ahead of myself. No, I'm not.
It's fine. It's fine.
I love AL.
Hey, when you see the clean execution like we just saw, when you see, even if it is against the, Team W here, still not able to find the series win of the split, it's still fun to watch, and it's still fun to see, even after a very tough game number 1, coming back in the last moment, coming back to a victory, and then saying, all right, easy, guys, 2-0 victory. Let's win it. 27 minutes. Not too shabby.
Yeah, and it's just such a joy. I just love it. I love QiuQiu, man. What a player. Just the engagement on this Amumu, fantastic. So good in this game. He said it himself, this is one of his favorite champions, and you can see why. Finding those big combos, setting up his team, and it all just feels like clockwork. The fact this team is that same team from spring and has managed to do so well. And I also want to hit on the importance, like, it is actually quite relevant for AL to keep picking up wins, because I don't know if you've checked ahead in their schedule, their week 9 and 10 is rough, right? Just for anyone at home, in week 9 and 10, they play RNG, JDG, EDG, and Top Esports. That is a real trial by fire before playoffs. And if they do maintain their place in the standings, it will come off the back of beating some of those teams. It'll come off the back of, showing what they can do against potential teams that they would be facing upper end of playoffs. So, AL, great win, great deserved win against WE, but still need to keep the momentum going, because I'm hoping we see AL do well in playoffs. I'm hoping we